Pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, and we'll start with the superintendent's report. Mr. Brooks.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Welcome to the 1920 school year. Even though technically we began that at our reorg meeting, this is really the meeting that kicks off the new school year, and quite honestly, we're very excited for it. It's finally time that the hallways come alive again. The high school certainly is teeming with activity, with the athletes coming back this week, and you're starting to slowly see some staff peeking into corners of the buildings and wondering when their classroom is going to be available so they can start getting things set up for September. So the excitement starts to build very quickly here for us. And certainly welcome back to the Board of Education and members of the public. The board did receive a scanned copy of a correspondence we got from a former employee, actually a contractor, that did some physical therapy work for our school district. So I just want to acknowledge that we had a correspondence from Mary Beth O'Haron, just talking about her wonderful experience here in the school district. Just an update for the Board of Education. I do have a copy of the 2018-2019 goals that the board adopted that I'll pass out tonight, just so you have those for your own consumption. So over the next whatever period of time, we can review those and determine what are our 1920. Also, for public consumption, we have on our website the request for proposals for a project labor agreement study towards our capital project. Pat is overseeing that process. We also have a request for proposals for an energy study associated with energy conservation work in our schools. So those are two RFPs that are being reviewed. Both of those items have been discussed at length back in the spring, and it's now time for us to start to see where those end up with in our school district. We're also in active ongoing dialogue with Verizon Wireless for the board to consider a proposal for installing a wireless phone tower out at our high school property. So once the dialogue regarding that contract reaches a point where the board is ready to review it, it will be a publicly discussed item for consideration within the school district. We're also I also am in receipt of, remember last year we had a relatively lengthy discussion about lacrosse at the middle school? In dialogue with the coaching staff and the athletic director, middle school principal, and the athletes that are interested, Jonna O'Donnell, our athletic director, feels strongly that she can run a boys modified lacrosse team this coming spring. So I asked her to put together a proposal for it, and I'm just temperature gauging the board right now. The only action item for the future, if we do decide to go in this direction, would be creating a stipend for the coach. So that would be an item on an agenda in a future agenda. Just trying to get an idea. I think I know the temperature of the board, but I want to make sure we talk about it publicly. Jonna believes that she can run a program beginning this spring. The cost initially, because of the equipment costs up front, and then of course getting into the league, busing, officials, etc., be somewhere right around $10,000, and then on top of that would be the stipend that we would negotiate with the MFA. So that is an unknown element, but it's going to be connected to other sports in the same, in the existing contract, but it would be something that we would have to negotiate. So I believe when we last spoke, there was full support for running an intramural lacrosse program that we did, and it was a nice start. Again, it was a start. But because of that start, Jonna believes that we have the athletes and the wherewithal to put together a modified program in-house, just us. Is that something that, it's not a vote item, but it's just, as we start to go through discussions, if that's something that the board wants to pursue, I'd like to get a message from the group that, yes, move forward, start putting together for us to have as an action item in the future.
they have, and they don't wanna, they don't feel with the modified, because they try and let everybody play. They're not budging on doing the merger there, so that's why.
And they have enough athletes for a team, and Jonna believes that we're gonna have enough athletes for our own team, for a boys program. If there are any girls that are interested, we might be able to pull those girls into the boys program, but that kind of depends. But there's really not an atmosphere for, within the league, by the way, because I think the numbers are not there to do a merger.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with it. It's, I was just curious. I want to make sure if there was kids in Highland that want to play, if we could get them here too.
Now is, go ahead. Now is,
So that
Go ahead.
typical couple of year waiting period that we discussed about doing, trying it and then bringing it, so that's been accelerated because of the turnout.
Yeah, they reached the point where we've got some pretty charged up athletes that really want to get into a competitive program. The league has a spot for us, so it's one of those things that it's an opportunity. Whether we take the opportunity now or do another year of intramural work and delay it for another year, that's certainly the decision of the board ultimately. I just want to get a gauge, do we start moving forward with the planning so that the board can eventually vote on what would be the stipend for the position or not? It's up, yeah, of course it comes out of the budget. It's up, yeah, of course it comes out of the budget. Correct. Correct. Right, I wish that the aids for the kindergarten would cost $10,000, we'd do that too. So it's a bit of a difference. Again, that's 100% the discretion of the Board of Education. We do have contingency allowances within our budget, as with any area, so for us to absorb $10,000 for this, we can't do $10,000 every single meeting, but I believe that we can fiscally, responsibly put this together from a fiscal perspective for this program. So yes, the answer is yes.
And we had a pretty extensive discussion about it, and we had told them if they could get it, because we do have students that are playing in that youth program that then, if we don't have the modified, can't do anything, and then have to get back together again for the varsity program. So, and it's been beneficial to kids. I mean, we have, students starting in Siena in this year that was a senior that's going on scholarship from lacrosse, from the combined program. And we got one that's finishing up his master's on a scholarship at Marist on a program.
I'm sorry? We didn't use Highland in the 18-19 school. They wouldn't allow us to merge with them in the 18-19 school year.
Just for
So
modified.
modified, so we ran an in-house intramural program.
Which evidently was very successful if we're talking about putting it on as a full-time deal. So.
And I think they did a pretty good, they did a really nice presentation.
They did.
To us, I know they did a presentation at the Highland Board too, to us, but, we hear and the Highland Board too. I believe it's in the best interest of the students to try and facilitate that. We'll see where it goes for the future. I mean,
So, what I'll do then is I'll put together a formal proposal for the board to consider at a future meeting soon with all associated expenses and stipends in that, so that there can be full debate and action on that. Okay? Full, yep. Full, yep.
Before you start, P.S. We're accepting donations for that program, in case anybody's watching the tape. P.S. We're accepting donations for that program.
Yes, we are. And that's all I have to report. Yes, we are.
Okay. Public comment on the agenda items. Any public comment on agenda items? Okay, if you have any comments, please come to the podium. It would have to be an agenda item that we have up. Excuse me? Excuse me? Okay, if you could step to the podium and state your name and and the town you're from, and step to the podium and state your name and the town you're from, and step to the podium and state your name and the town you're from, and
Brooks. My name's Lorenzo D'Angelico. Live at 12 Penny Lane, Marlboro. One of the topics that you'll have, or you're going to discuss in executive session tonight, is a denial letter that I received for school bus transportation for my daughter. She goes to St. Mary's School in Fishkill. I just bought my house in September of last year, of 2018. Prior to that, I spoke to Maggie Homenchuk, I think that's her name. Yep, I made the phone call back in July of 2018 before I put an offer in on the house to make sure that my daughter would be provided transportation to St. Mary's in Fishkill. I was told yes, transportation would be approved and that she'd be transported. She was transported for the entire 2018 school year, or school session. And then this year I got a letter saying that her transportation would be denied. And the reason being was because of a 15-mile radius, where I live at 16 miles from door to door. The only reason why I bought my house in Marlboro, one, I always wanted to come back to the hometown. This is where I grew up. This is where I went to school. Not having transportation for her in the morning or in the afternoon now, she's going to create quite a setback. I'm a police officer with the town of Montgomery. I did 20 years with the city of Newburgh. I retired. Now I'm with the town of Montgomery. I'm the school resource officer there. So for me to get to work in the morning and get over to Fishkill to pick her up at 2:30, it's never going to happen with my schedule. So I did write a letter to Mr. Brooks. Who's going to pass it along to the board. I did want to put a face to that letter to let you know who I am. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on agenda items? Any other comments on agenda items? Any other comments on agenda items? Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the contract agreements and reports as presented. Personnel recommendations, unofficial board meeting minutes of 7/1/19, CSCPSE recommendations, emergency safety plans for 2019, 2020, claims order report for April, May, and June, food donations to the backpack program, contract for St. James Tutoring, contract for Hudson Valley Sports Dome, contract for Orthopedic Associates, contract for OU BOCE Summer Transportation Contract, for Middle Hope Lease Agreement revised, contract for Honeywell Law Firm revised agreement, contract for Learnwell Tutoring Services, disposition of books and equipment, 2019-2020 breakfast lunch pricing, certification of the free and reduced lunch, budget transfers, tax levy for 2019-2020, financial reports for June as presented. Can I have a motion? James, second. Can I have a motion? Susan. Discussion. Susan, do you want this, you want to talk about the tax levy? Do you want to do that? Talk about the tax levy? Do you want to do that? Actually, yeah, you want to do it? Yeah. I thought that was,
It's the next.
I thought that was.
the recommendation.
No, it's in, it's in the consent. No, it's in the consent.
Tax levies.
Oh, the tax levies, okay, it's the other one, it's the report, okay, never mind. Oh, the tax levies, okay, it's the other one, it's the report, okay, never mind. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Any questions on consent items? Any questions on consent items? Any questions on consent items? Any questions on consent items?
Paraprofessionals in another position, and they're being paid differently. It's the same person, so how does that work?
Yep, you're talking about Barbara Girdley? Yep, you're talking about Barbara Girdley? It's two different positions that she's being appointed to, and they have two different rates in their contract. No, it's different times throughout the day. It's a lunch aide and a monitor? Yeah, the hours don't overlap.
when she's doing one job, she's gonna be paid one rate, and she's doing another job, she's gonna be paid a different rate. And she's doing another job, she's gonna be paid a different rate. It's a part-time, it's a part-time,
Two different jobs, two different titles in the contracts.
Contractual.
Two different jobs, two different titles in the contracts.
Contractual.
Two different jobs, two different
Question, my other question was on the CSE meetings. I've noticed they don't go all the way back from May. Is there a way that they should be done earlier? When you want to already have this up in the past? In 30 days, they should be brought to the board. We are now, almost in September, and we're approving in May. CSE meetings.
If there are any specific ones that you wanted to address, we can address those in executive session because it would. Right, but we can. Right, but we can. Right. Oh, no, I understand. Those specific ones, we can address those specific ones as to why they're on this agenda versus another one. Specific ones as to why they're on this agenda. Right, we can address those in executive because we don't want to have any personally identifiable information like divulged in it. But there's an explanation. Yep, I understand. But there's an explanation. Yep, I understand. There's an explanation. Yep, we can provide that explanation in executive. Yep, we can provide that explanation in executive.
okay, Joanne, he said he'll explain them in
Yes.
exec as to the reason. Any other questions on the consent items? other
So,
questions on the consent
regarding the lease agreement with Middle Hope, we are really looking at a commencement date for September 1st?
Well, actually, we have a lease in force right now, so they are prepared to occupy at any, whenever they're ready. This is a lease modification that's specific to one provision. There's a basketball group that uses the facility, so this is explicitly allowing them to continue using the facility, and the cost of the security required for that is associated with this updated lease. Security required for that is associated with
And
this.
then do we have a comparison analysis between last year and this year with the free and/or reduced lunch program? Free and/or reduced lunch program?
Talking about what it cost last year versus this year?
And, just what are we looking at as a whole as far as where the district stands with the demographics of students, the population of students that are qualified for that program versus years past, just to kind of gauge a financial,
Can we pull together some information for a board report? Can we pull together some information for, I don't know if it was last year or prior year, but.
Yeah, it would be good to know where we're at, where we were at percentage-wise last year, the year before, and where we, I know we won't have those initial numbers this year until after school starts. I know it changes all year long as you guys keep trying to run those reports and get people into the program that qualify.
What we can do is we can put together an economic report and a demographic report on the program. We're also efforting this year to do a study on our food service program. So we're looking for a firm right now that can come in and help us with doing an outside review of it. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but are there areas that we can expand and grow?
does the state tell you if they change the parameters of, do they give you the guidelines for the parameters, and do they tell you, what changes from year to year?
Highly regulated, so we'll have Fred cover that too.
Because I think that would be interesting for the board to see too, just really, again, gauging, how things are, how the parameters are changing at a state level and how that affects us.
State and federal. Absolutely, yep, and we can include that in the presentation. Absolutely, yep, and we can include that in the presentation.
Okay? Okay?
So they are, I believe they just went up on Auctions International today. But yes, these are desks that are in very, very bad condition. So broken, vandalized, abused, in pieces. Well, ultimately, what we were talking about, if they don't sell in Auctions International, discuss possibly putting an announcement out that we're gonna set them in the parking lot in the back of the building, and, you know, at the end of the week, they're going in the garbage. Nobody's gonna, these are not the desks of the condition that people would generally want. These are not the desks. We're looking at possibly getting scrap metal value for it if we don't sell them. They're not in anything that's considered reasonable condition.
Other question is, with the food program going up and everything, the backpack program, because I know it always starts late this year, or always starts a little late. Do you know when we will start the backpack program this year?
Always starts in October, that's when the food bank begins to give us money. We will then, Fred and I are meeting next week to look at what we have from the summer, and then if we can start it earlier, we could maybe start it the last week of September. And then if we can start it earlier, we start it the last week. Right. And actually, Joanne, I don't know, the teachers union worked with me this summer, and we actually kept it going for the summer for any parent that wanted to go up to the MFA office, and they would pick up boxes of food. So we kept it going all summer. You're welcome.
How many families are you currently serving? How many families are you currently serving? How many families?
Because of our grant, we're only allowed to service 30 students through that grant. But we service 50 right now that, out using the donations outside of that 30. The donations. That's families, so that's not all the children. There might be 5 children in one family. That's not all the children. There might be 5 children in one family.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? Any other questions on the consent agenda? Joanne? Joanne? Well, no, we're voting. Sorry. Well, no, we're voting. I know, it's the first time we're getting to do all this. Susan? I know, it's the first time we're getting to do James?
Yes.
John? Susan? Yes. And myself, yes. James? Yes. John? Susan? And myself, yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 new staff members that are here tonight that I would like to introduce. There's 2 others that were unable to make it tonight. Jamie Fisher is not here tonight, but she'll be coming to us as a special education teacher at the elementary school, and Stephen Sang will be coming as a leave replacement in the elementary school as well. But with us tonight, I'd like to introduce you to Viviana O'Farrell. She is going to be teaching Spanish at our middle school and our high school. She has a certification in Spanish 7 through 12, an undergraduate degree from New Jersey City University in psychology, and a graduate degree from New Jersey City University in urban education, ESL, and bilingual extensions, and the University of Salamanca in Spain, with a master's in Spanish language and culture. Viviana, welcome to Marlborough. We also have Travis Cooley. He's coming down from Oneonta. I believe actually he's from the area, though. Coming down from Oneonta? Yes. Travis is going to be teaching at our middle school and our high school in our STEM position, the new position created by this board. He is certified in physics 7 through 12. He's got an undergraduate degree from SUNY New Paltz with a BA in physics and a graduate degree from Western Governors University with a master's in mathematics. So Travis, welcome to Marlborough.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to recommended actions. Personnel recommendation. Resolve that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the personnel recommendation as presented. Can I get a motion? Karen, second. James, any discussion? Karen, second. James, any discussion? This is John Cantone's wife. So if John was here, we didn't want John to have to recuse himself from the whole consent agenda. John's wife has been an employee for a long time, and she's resigning from her reset aide and district monitor position to take on a teaching assistant 5.5 hours position. So she went through the entire process. She was been an employee prior to John even getting on the board, and just didn't want him to have to recuse himself. So we separated it from the rest of the items. Any other questions?
So with the recommended actions, D is the non-public transportation pickup location. I know that we did discuss it, and I also read the letter.
This is just this one personnel action.
Oh, you're not doing A through E,
No,
sorry.
these are the ones we have to vote on separately.
Okay,
We're all trying to get back into the swing, me
Clearly.
included. We're all
clearly.
trying to get back into the swing. This is just the one appointed.
Go ahead.
This is just the one appointed. Okay, any other discussion? This is just the one appointed. Okay, any other discussion? Joanne? Karen? Joanne? Susan?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Yes.
Myself, yes. 6 is nothing. John? Yes. Myself, yes. 6 is nothing. John? So, B, Pixlet Play-On Sports NFH Agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve an agreement for the Pixlet Play-On Sports NFHS Network School Broadcast Program effective on July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 as presented. Can I get a motion? James, second. Karen, discussion. Or Mike, do you want to second? Karen, discussion.
This was the camera streaming system that we're going to be installing with your approval in the gymnasium and out on the turf field. We've thoroughly gone through this with our athletic department, our attorneys, internally within our own selves, answered the questions that I had raised of concern. It's a managed program that's managed by the school district through the company. So we have full control over those cameras. We also built in liability elements so that if there is something that is done that is the fault of the company, we have a way to address those issues. So Ms. O'Donnell is very comfortable and excited about bringing this technology in and this offering for people to stream and watch these athletic events, and is prepared to manage it. So I'm making the recommendation that we move forward with the program.
I have a few questions about it. So I know that we discussed previously that it was not going to be a cost to the district, and this is the first time that we have used these, if approved by the board. This will be the first time we've ever used their services, correct?
Correct.
So, you know, I just went through the motions to see, you know, what all that meant. When I went on, I saw that they already had our videos uploaded, which I thought was interesting. Which I thought was interesting. Videos of our games. From last year. So when I clicked on the arrow, it immediately said, do you want to subscribe? So I thought it, you know, I just thought it was interesting because I was wondering, I'm like, okay, if it's no cost to the district, you know, how is this company making money? So it's through membership. I believe it's monthly. You can pay annually for like $69.99 and or monthly for $5.99. But I just thought it was interesting how
They just have a picture
I just thought
of
it was
one of our
interesting
games.
how
I don't know.
there was an arrow like you could play.
Right.
So I was like, did I miss something? There was an arrow
Probably
like
more
you could
promotional.
play.
I'm guessing it's more
So I was like, did
promotional.
I miss? Yeah, because I typed it, you know.
And there's a lot of video out there of our
Yeah,
games.
because I typed it.
So
you
yeah,
know,
it is a
so
subscription service for the users that want to watch. Yeah, it is
So-
a subscription service for the users that want to watch. Yeah, it is a subscription service.
No. If you want to watch the game live, and if you want to watch the game within 3 days of the contest, you're going to need a subscription. I believe after 3 days, there is some public viewing of the contest, but there will be some commercials and things like that in the product. Some commercials.
And-
The only expense for the school district through the school taxes would be if we pull out of the contract that we're signing. Let me finish. If we pull out of the contract that we're signing, there's a penalty if we pull out within the first 5 years per camera. Beyond that, it's a service that's being provided that Mike can speak to a little more detail, but it's clear in the contract. It's a subscription service that a viewer would subscribe to watch.
So the yes and no. So what is happening is it's not costing the district anything. In order to view it, you must have a membership to subscribe.
Correct.
So I guess what we have to, weigh out in making the decision is if you have a parent per se that can't attend a sports function that they want to see, but for some reason they can't. I mean, how much would it cost for them to physically walk in and pay to get into one of our sports events? How much?
It's a couple
It's a couple of dollars. So if you went to 2 events a week, you're basically going to pay close to the $5.99 per month. Well, if you pay it for the annual, you'll get the $5.99. So, at first I was like, oh, this is interesting, because I figured there was a way. Well, you knew, Joanne, you knew it was going to cost something, somewhere.
gotta be
There's
some way for them to
nobody's
make
in
money,
business
otherwise
not
it's
to
not
make
gonna
money.
Yeah,
Nobody's in business not to make money.
This is not a,
Nobody's in business not to make money.
if the school district was going to provide a free service, we would be hiring our own staff, staffing out cameras, and running the cameras ourselves. That's not what we're doing. So this is a contract with an outside company that is a for-profit company that will make money by streaming our events. We're just providing a platform by having a contract with them and allowing the camera. So
And let me,
Well, that's,
There is.
that's the question. Last time we spoke about this, we were going to look and see if other districts were using them and
That's
if they were
correct.
making money.
and keep in mind, this was adopted by Section 9. It was also adopted at the state level to enter the market for high school sports. They are active in several other states, and Ms. Horton actually asked that we reach out, and I did. I communicated with the Director of Athletics from Morristown High School in New Jersey. His name was Smitty Horton, as it would be. So Smitty
relation. I don't know
Smitty loves
Smitty.
the system.
No relation.
Recently added a third camera in an auxiliary gym. System's very easy to program and is handled out of the athletic office. Parents and community love the option to watch or rewatch school contests. It allows him to monitor games that he can't be at. He can't be everywhere. And all the games at all levels in those gyms are recorded with sound. And he was open to us and Jonna reaching out if we had further questions. Mr. Wright is the supervisor of phys ed, health and athletics and recreation at South Huntington School District on Long Island. So they gave me one New York school, one out of state, who also was very pleased with the system. Originally had just purchased one for their main athletic field and has added an additional one in, 2 more, one in each gym that they have inside the school. The coaches love it, as does the community. Selling subscriptions has been slow, but Booster Club advertises it. Again, open to calls or questions. So, yes, there is an option for us to go into profit sharing. That's not what we're looking to do in the first year. We're looking to kind of live within. In other words, there's no marketing plan that we're going to push.
revenue sharing begins in year 4 on the contract, and it's 10% of the take on revenue. But that's not our 10%. It's gonna
Our
be
goal
pennies
is
in
to
reality.
transmit student contests for public consumption. Another service to our community. Another service to our community.
Yeah, so in other words, if I'm understanding this right, there's really no risk to this district, because if our parents don't like it, they still have to provide the service for the 4 years. And then after 4 years, they just wouldn't want to renew it. Is that correct? Am I assuming the right? train of thought there.
Exactly.
And if our parents love it, we can make some money on it down the road. And if our parents love
So
it, we can make
if
some
the
money.
parents don't, if nobody uses it, which I'm gonna tell you, there's gonna be people who use it. Because especially if you're a student playing JV sports, it is very, very difficult to get to those earlier games. You know, whether it be volleyball or basketball, you know, or any of them, even football. I mean, the JV games is hard to get to, at those earlier times. People have to work. So they may not be able to see the whole game, they'll be able to watch what they miss later if they want to do that. Watch what they miss later if they want to do that. Watch what they miss later. Yeah.
Moving up ceremonies during the day. Opening of schools, school starting middle school, school starting high school, always during the day. Parents have to take off. If we're taking off for those things, you can't take off to go to a sports game and get there early. Recent research shows that parents that go to sports games actually increase not only academic performance, but also the student performance and the student confidence. Benefits their kids. This is offering them another venue for them to see their kids actually perform in school. So I think this is something as a board, we need to provide to our parents.
Well, plus it's going to allow, if you have more than one child and you're traveling to a game in one, not for nothing, in a lot of these places you have decent service, you're going to be able to be at one game and watch the other on your mobile device. Be at one game and watch the other on your mobile device. Oh, yeah.
My other question, and it's something that John brought up.
Oh, yeah.
What other school districts in this area, are we the first ones in Ulster and Orange County to do this? Does Westchester have it? Does Putnam have it? Does Dutchess have it?
Mike spoke to two that just responded to him. Mike spoke to two that just
Let him finish.
spoke to two that are actively using it, and there are a number of school districts that we don't have the list of that have adopted this platform recently. But I don't have that. I don't have that list officially. I don't have that. I didn't do homework for others.
So do they? So do they?
It's brand new to the region, so there's a bunch of school districts that took action this summer to adopt. I just don't know which one.
And my concern there wasn't for the public. My concern there was for the coaches. Because being a former coach, I know they don't like being scouted. So I just want to make sure John had definitely did a due diligence on something like this. Like if we're the only team in the area, other coaches in the area can just sit back for $3. They don't have to even go out and scout our games anymore.
John is pretty games anymore. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that Highland.
We know they scout us anyhow, John. Come on.
The Highland Board adopted it last month. So, that's anecdotally, I don't have a comprehensive list, though. Anecdotally, I don't have a comprehensive list. Gotcha.
Do they end up owning the rights
Gotcha.
to the video footage? Owning the rights to the video? Because I know it's
Basically, yeah, they are purchasing the
Because I know
rights
it's-
to the events. So, yeah, they're selling it.
because I know they said no other third-party video can. Because I know they said no.
Right, you know, with the exception of when you get into, regional games, that's all mandated by the state. Regional games, New York State Public High Schools controls all that. Because most of them can't even do anything because of that. Not that we don't usually wind up getting the pleasure of having regional games at our facilities usually because we're playing in them.
So they're not going to do something crazy like, say, no cell phone video at
Oh,
games.
gosh. No, they're not even physically present.
No, I know.
So
I mean,
it's
but
managed
I'm just
remotely,
saying,
so-
No, I know. I mean, but I'm
No.
just saying.
Yeah, no, and because no school would do it. If that was the case, no school would do it. Because any child that is actually playing competitive sports has to prepare video to put together their sales package to try and play at the next level. Their sales package to try and play at the next level. Any other discussion?
Just a minor point. I'm good on everything else. I was worried about the risk. Are the cameras movable, or would you have to get a third camera? And the reason I ask that is because, like, baseball season, our baseball and softball teams are fantastic. They always go far. Are they movable to be moved to those fields, or would you have to get another camera down the road? So it's a good service. We'd have to look into getting another camera if the baseball parents or softball parents were getting another camera.
A little more complex for the outer fields, because part of this agreement is I have to give them a hard wire, and I do not have those types of facilities out there. But we talked about if there is any site work, whether it be drainage or other, that there would be an opportunity to bury some conduit and get some cable out.
Everything in the gym
It will-
and everything
that's
on the
right.
field.
The gym and the turf field.
No, Joanne, hold on. We're putting a camera in the gymnasium and a camera out on the turf field. The athletic department is going to determine which events are streamed. The athletic department is going to determine which events are streamed.
No.
No.
Only on the turf field.
Not present.
We don't have a list or a contract for specific events and specific sports. The athletic department is determining that. The athletic department. No, what I'm saying is that we're not adopting specific sports for this product. That's up to the athletic department. Because what John brought up might be a factor in whether some games get streamed or not. I don't know, that's up to whether some games get streamed or not.
And assuming this goes well, like with some of the other schools, they had it a couple years, it's gone well, they're adding an additional camera. They had it a couple years, or two. It's gone well, they're adding an additional camera. They had it a couple years, or two. It's possible.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Joanne? Any other discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Joanne? Any other discussion? Joanne? Karen? Susan?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
James?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Yes.
Student use of computer information resources. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the first read of Policy 7315, Student Use of Computerized Information Resources as presented. Can I get a motion? Resources, James, second. Can I get a motion? John. Discussion. Susan. Can I get a motion?
Yes.
John.
So I just need to clarify and understand, I know that I had written to the board about this opting out versus giving consent. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. The final policy that we're looking at excludes the opting out, or it includes the opting out?
The new policy that's proposed is an opt-out policy, meaning if you don't want your children to participate with our computer, internet, email, Google Docs, electronic systems, you would write us, there's a form in there you can fill out, exclude my child. We're opting out.
So without that opt-out, we're going to that proposed way of everyone's opted in unless they're opted out.
That's correct.
So,
That's the recommendation.
Rather than have to collect.
I understand. I have
Rather
my
than have
opinion
to
about it.
collect-
I just
yeah.
want to know if any other board members have their opinion about it, because I specifically stated my opinion with the
Right.
policy committee.
It's also included, the opt-out element, the disclaimer more or less, is included in the parent packet. So it's not just going to be buried in board policy. This is in the board packet. Here's the reality of it. We send out for we've actually semi-operated on an opt-out process for the last couple of years, especially with the one-to-one. the parents sign off on it when they sign off on the one-to-one, more or less. So it's unwieldy to have an opt-in.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about having an opt-in. I'm talking about just parents giving consent for, like we've had it. Parents remaining with what we've had. Parents giving consent for their children to use the computers and the internet, et cetera. And my thought process is this. I feel that as parents and with multiple children, you are inundated with so many things, emails, text messages, multiple teachers, multiple grades, work, sports. It's a lot. And I just feel that, you know, that could easily be, either way, I understand, it can be easily overlooked, but if you're just automatically enrolling a child without that consent, like here is what your responsibility is, here is what your child has to do, your understanding of this, sign this piece of paper, I just feel like that is more of, it just gives the parents a heads up, like, look, you know, this is what you're signing, this is what you're reading, opposed to them already just being a part of it without per se realizing it, unless all of a sudden they say, oh, okay, I want to opt out, which I don't see that happening, period. I just feel like it's just a reinforcement of, this is the policy, these are the school rules, this is what, you know, the school is liable for, this is what the school is not liable for, and you are signing that, opposed to not signing it and, oh my goodness, here's a problem, and oh, am I going to opt out, or whatever. You get my point.
No, I absolutely understand it. We do have a few people that let us know we don't want our kids to participate in anything that's electronic, internet related, and no, we don't even want a Chromebook. So we do have that actual practice happening. I mean, I respect what you're saying. I understand it. It's
We've actually had quite a few conversations because we did have some parent we did have some parents who would opt out in the past at the secondary level, so grade 6 and above. That's kind of gone to the wayside a little bit because of the one-to-one device initiative. But what I did have conversations with those parents, and we needed to demonstrate that we were in fact filtering. They wanted to understand the data and how we were filtering, and I did, in fact, share with some of these parents the log files, as in sites that the child tried to go to but was denied, sites that the child was going to and that were approved, because the majority of those are Google-related sites, classroom websites, because they're meant for work. And that really put, and this is not a lot, this was about 4 or 5 parents last year, more in the middle level than the high school level. And I wanted to make it very clear to these parents that we were filtering, we were monitoring, and there were programs running in the background on the Chromebooks that would protect their child and also give us feedback if there was an issue. And in every one of those cases, we demonstrated that the parents were okay. And I asked them to call me anytime. We could share those files by month, or, you know, if they had any concerns, we could dig deeper. And they ended up approving, signing off on the policy so their child could get the Chromebook. I'm just adding that because there are discussions with parents, sensitive ones, and we share the information to, you know, let them know that we're doing what we say in those policies. You know, let them know that we're doing what we say in those policies. You know, let them know that we're doing what we say.
Hence why Google executives don't give Chromebooks to their own children. Hence why
Well,
Google
looking at the
executives don't
policy,
give Chromebooks to their own children.
I'm looking at the forms that they have to sign off on. If these students don't return these forms, are they technically opting out? If these students don't return these, because we have an agreement that, you know, they're going to use it as we say, and they're signing off, their parents are signing off. So if they never return these forms, do they have to return the forms, I guess, in order to get the Chromebook to begin with?
No, they have to return the forms to opt out.
So
You
even
do
though,
not have to submit a form. It's automatic that the new policy, let me be clear. The new policy, if adopted after the second read, every student in our school district would automatically have access to our computer network and the internet under our student discipline policy. So there still is an accountability structure under our code of conduct as far as what's allowable, what's not. We have a very strict monitoring system. We have software that does very clearly provide reports to all of our administrative team on a daily basis of use and nefarious purposes, games, etc. So this is, if it's adopted, everyone gets access. But unless you say, I don't
But you're
like
saying
that.
access, but when we actually talk about issuing Chromebooks, they have to sign paperwork for it.
That's
Because
correct.
there's the insurance issue and the other stuff. So physically getting a device, you still have to sign for as an adult. But having access to our network and the means to get there, you don't. Correct.
I think my point is, it's just, you know, it's a good stopping, halting point, whatever you want to call it, for parents. Just, I mean, these things are in our hands all the time, you know? It's just, it's so easy for us to forget how, what that device actually is. And all I'm saying to the board is, I feel that it's not a bad thing to have a parent sign a waiver that says, you know what, yes, whether they read it or not, that's fine, but we're providing it and saying to them, listen, we need you to sign this so you can review with your child what our policies are and what all of this means, all of the stuff that we've just suggested, which I know, and they're all good things. I just feel that, you know, it's just a good stopping and starting point. That's just a good
I 100% agree with you,
starting
actually.
point.
This policy is purely pragmatic, because forever and a day, school districts that started to offer the internet 20 years ago or whenever it started had opt-in policies, and you'd have to fill out these forms and send them in. As a classroom teacher, it became virtually impossible to manage, because, okay, we're going to do this project. Okay, where's that list? Is it updated? Nope, shoot, this is last week's list. Where's this week's list? Okay, this week's list. You, and you can play. You, and you, we've got an alternative for you. It's an unmanageable piece. So from a pragmatic perspective, that's the reason why a school district may move towards this approach. From a communications perspective, I agree with you. This is something that does disconnect that paper communication so that it encourages some kind of a conversation regarding responsibility and responsible use of the internet and the purpose. So, to some extent, I agree with you. On the pragmatic side, it's a speed bump for progress, because getting those papers back from everybody and then managing those lists is tantamount to climbing Mount Everest.
But then again, so are you saying realistically, and I know we all want to move on from this subject, but I'm just curious at this point, are you saying, you know, at this, so for example, if a child brings in their own device, a phone, I know nobody brings a phone to school, right? So if, per se, they were to do that, are they being denied access to get onto the school, to use the school internet? Internet. So what you're saying, so now explain to me how the automatic opting in, how do you pinpoint those students that opt out, those parents that opt out, and prevent them from getting on the internet?
With their own device?
Correct. Prevent them from getting on the internet.
This is the issue. It's in today's day and age, it's virtually impossible to manage that piece of, no, you can't.
So that's what I'm saying.
But don't we provide each student?
So that's what I'm saying.
Login and password?
So they wouldn't have access to that. They would not get. So they wouldn't have access to that. They would not get
They still can't get onto the network. All they're gonna get is the public Wi-Fi. That anybody can get.
So,
Or their own.
Which is
or
restricted.
their own
Right,
data.
or their own data.
But there actually lies the issue, that it's become so ubiquitous that this is an accessible tool, that pretending that a teacher can manage it well by figuring out who's on the opt-out list, who's on the opt-in list, that's semi-complete because, well, of course my parents are okay with it, I just haven't brought the paper in yet. It's very difficult to manage. So that if you have a list of those that opt out, it might be, let's say 5 kids a school. That's an easy list to manage. So then we're working on a project, I know that Jenny, Jimmy, and James can't.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall to see when that list comes out. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, I mean, really, think about it. Nobody's thinking about that because we all have our own device all the time. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's thinking about that because we all have our own device all the time. You know what I'm saying? Thinking about that because we all have our own device all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right now, it's all the same line, you're opting for information. So right now, if you want for pesticide information, you send this back in. If you want information about the child not left behind, and you don't want your demographic information put into that, then you have to send this in. If you want to deny media coverage or opt out for students in the school district to interview, then you have to send this back in. So you cannot do one form one way and then all these others the other. So if we need to be consistent in practice, so since this is already done this way, we're just being consistent, I think, in the way that things have already been presented, and the parents are probably used to it by this point. So my question is, so if we don't get any paperwork back, it means they just automatically opt in.
Correct.
Parent, so does that packet come to home with the student, or is it
Correct.
the parent?
Yes. It gets emailed home, it's up on our website. It gets emailed home, it's up on our website.
I have to tell you, I don't look at my email all the time. I have about 25,000 typed. I don't look at it. It's there because it's so full of junk now. It's there. I don't care. I look at it, I think, you know, continue to build. All I need to go in and I can go in and so that's my point. If we send it home and we don't get it back, how do we know the parent record? How do we know the parent did it back?
We are expecting a level of connectedness from our families that they are engaging in the dialogue about the beginning of school. I mean, yes, we are expecting.
And let's remember, we're just talking about the access part of policy. They still are coming to a meeting, and they're still signing paperwork to get the device. Well, no, you have to, it's gotta be one way or the other. You can't have, you're not both. It's gotta be one way or the other. Either we have an opt-in or an opt-out policy.
Can I make a suggestion?
Well, no, I'd like to see, before you go,
Can I make a suggestion?
where are we at as a group? John, where are we at as a
I'm
group?
in favor.
John,
I work with kids. They'll find a way around it. Trust me. They'll get their friends login. They'll do it if their parents opt them out. They're all going to be online anyway. They'll do it if their parents opt them out. They're
I
all going to be
honestly
online
feel
anyway.
that if you're gonna opt your student, your child out of it, you're also gonna opt them out of Chromebooks. I think it's gonna run hand in hand, so I'm fine with as written. I think it's gonna run hand in hand, so I'm
Joanne.
fine with as written.
Joanne.
That parents should know what they're doing with Chromebooks. You're asking to sign for Chromebooks, why can't you tell them at the same time? If you opt out, you won't get the Chromebook.
Because it's not just about Chromebooks, though. This is access to the computer network. This is access to the computer. There's
Not
other
just-
devices too.
There's lots of other devices. So
There's other devices
you don't wanna make the change.
There's other devices.
You don't wanna make the change. Karen? Karen?
For this, because the parents need a certain level of input, we're providing any opportunities for them, we provide throughout the process, I think we're covered, and this is the journey most districts are going.
Now, my question is, if we go this way, before I give my 2 cents on it, would we include this new opt-out form with all those other opt-out forms that we give the parents? Yes. Yeah, so it would be part of that package. If you, so instead of, when Stephanie started school, you had to sign everything and send it in. Now, you only send it in if you don't want them to do stuff, with all the other stuff. Instead of sitting there just, with all the other stuff. Instead of sitting there just.
I think you know how I've, it's not, it's not what this brings. It's just the process of having, there's nothing wrong with a parent just being made aware, and again, I certainly know, I'm not even gonna go. You guys get what I'm saying. It's it's about the sanctions, the violations, it's just, it's a way to have it in their face, and they say, oh yeah, and kids, by the way, this is really important.
But real quick, just, I don't know if this would make you feel better. Can't they opt out later if they were really upset about it, a parent, in December or January? Couldn't they come to you and say, Mike, I don't want my kid on the internet? In December or January, they can get out whenever they want.
You know what we'll do too? We'll put together a Connections newsletter that really highlights computer use and responsibility to try to encourage those conversations about safe use of computers and the internet at home.
Well, we should anyhow.
Well, I think we actually do that every fall, but we'll highlight it multiple times if we have to.
Okay, we'll vote. John?
Yes.
Okay. James?
Yes.
Susan?
No,
Yes.
Karen? James?
Yes.
Joanne?
no,
Yes.
Karen? James?
Yes.
Joanne?
no,
Karen? James?
Yes.
Joanne?
no.
You have to vote, it's not, you don't have a conflict, so you have to vote, it's not, and I vote, and I'll vote yes. So motion carries 4-2. And I'll vote yes. For the second, motion carries 4-2. First reading. For the second, motion carries 4-2. First reading. D, non-public transportation pickup. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve in accordance with Education Law Section 3635, the Board of Education designates the Marlboro Middle School as a centralized pickup point for any resident student who attends non-public school, live more than 15 miles from their non-public school, have had their transportation request approved, and wish to be transported via district transportation. Can I have a motion? District transportation. James, second. Can I have a motion? Karen, discussion. Second. Can I have a motion?
Quick question on that.
Karen.
Did we have a limit in place beforehand, or were we just kind of?
It's always 15 miles. It's always 15
So
miles.
the legislation is, or the law has always been 15 miles. We had always operated under the assumption that we were permitted to pick up over 15 miles if there was no additional cost to the district. That is not what the actual case is. If a student attends a non-public school that's over 15 miles from their home, they must be picked up from a centralized pickup point. So we, just this year, it affects a large number of our Lady Lord students particularly, because we've got a large number of students who go there, and various, one or two people attending other schools than Our Lady of Lourdes. So this is just, there's no additional cost to what we have done, so it didn't cost any taxpayer dollars to do that, to pick those kids up, because of the way our transportation contract is structured with an amount of time. The minimum block is 2 hours. None of those runs, most of them are combined with multiple non-public schools, but they're all completed in less than 2 hours. But in looking at it, if we would be subject to, if we were to be audited on this, we would get cited for not complying with the law. So this is just sets us completely compliant with education law in terms of transporting students who live outside of 15 miles.
And this is only if there's a trigger student within the 15 miles, correct?
Correct. So we're going to talk later about other issues, but what this relates to, say for example, we have two students who go to Our Lady of Lourdes. One of them lives 13 miles away, the other lives 16 miles away. the 13-mile student can be picked up from their home and directly transported to Our Lady of Lourdes. The 16-mile student would not be permitted to be picked up at their home, but we can pick them up from the centralized pickup point and transport them from the centralized pickup point to the non-public school, as long as the distance between the centralized pickup point and the non-public school is 15 miles or less.
So that's going to lead me to another question. Don't think I'm being smart. If I live 15.1 miles from the school and I want to walk a tenth of a mile, will you pick me up? 15.1 miles from the school.
The points are measured from a point on the property of the student's home address to the point, a point on the property of the non-public school. So you can't walk down to the end of the corner and be within the 15 miles.
What if I changed my pickup address?
Such as a babysitter address? I believe the requirement is the student's home address. I believe the requirement is
Susan, you had a question?
So initially, when I'm reading the resolution, this is where I got confused at first. Pickup point for any resident students who attend non-public schools, comma, live more than 15 miles from their non-public school. So to me, that was saying that those who, well, I shouldn't say it was saying, I had a question, and I think you just clarified it, I'm not sure. So, if you currently are living still within that 15-mile radius from your home to the school, the non-public school that you wish to attend, the school bus is going to come to your home and take you. So what we are doing now is we are accommodating those students that do not live within that 15 miles by creating a general pickup point with another bus run with
We were always picking the other people up at their home. As long
Oh,
as
I
we
know,
have
I know
one.
that.
Okay.
No, I know that.
The district
Oh,
does
I know,
not
I know
provide
that.
transportation.
No, I know that.
In the centralized
Oh, I
pickup.
know that.
If there is a bus route that runs along that, if there is a bus in front of, like, runs by that student's house, and there's no additional cost to the district to have that student get on that bus and ride it to the centralized pickup point, they can. But we would not be busing students from outside of 16 miles to the centralized pickup point, unless it works out that the timing of the bus that's already running past their house is able to accommodate that. So it would be the parent's responsibility to have the student transported to the pickup point, the centralized pickup point, and that's by law.
So essentially, you can have a child that is 16 miles away, that's not within the 15-mile radius, that can get public transportation based on this centralized pickup point.
Transportation from the centralized pickup point to school, and from school back to the centralized pickup.
But only if we have another student in the district that's within the 15 miles.
Who's going to that school?
That's the piece in there that says have had their transportation requested.
Right, so if we don't have a trigger, so if this year we've got 10 people going to Lourdes, one person lives within the 15 miles, that person graduates next year, we got nobody in the 15 miles, those other 9 people next year aren't getting transportation. Those other 9 people next year aren't getting nobody within the 15 miles.
We're gonna talk about some of the finer points of that, dealing with the case we're gonna talk about later.
So are we going to table this?
Well, this we need to
So are we going to table
as a
this?
centralized pickup point.
So
This
does
has
that,
nothing to do with
does that,
anything else.
does that affect the specific case that we're going to be talking about?
Why would, if the board chooses not to designate a location, and continue to do what we've been doing, we may want to table this, and we can, for potential action after the board meeting.
I'm
Right,
actually,
I would just advise that the law, or education law, but
Law
Well-
also says we have to give so many hours of every class, and some of them we can't make.
There's nothing wrong to table it until after the executive session, and the board may or may not take action after executive session.
Can I get a motion to table? Pick any 2 people, it was unanimous. Pick any 2 people, it was unanimous. We can't table the next one. Okay. We can't table the next one. So, recommended action, tax levy 2019-2020. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, authorize the tax levy for 2019-2020 school year as presented. Can I have a motion? James, second. Susan. Any discussion? James, second. Susan.
Yeah,
Any
just a
discussion?
question. I guess it's a good question to ask. When I look at what my taxes are going up, is this less than what we forecasted? Because for some reason, taxes, this number looks small compared to what I was expecting.
Which number?
So if we look at the 250,
Which
so
number?
the bill per year, I just want to be clear, is going up $55 a year. So the bill per
You
year.
got it turned on, James?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay. Okay.
Just bring it closer.
Did you hear my question, Pat?
Just bring it closer.
No, I did not, I'm sorry.
So when we look at the house sale price in Marlboro for $250,000. So when we look at the difference is 5521.91%. That is for the year, correct? Difference is 5521.91%.
Correct. So, do you want me to just run through?
Well,
The question was, it seems like, I thought when we did the, it
We
seemed
had,
like we
so we had a
forecasted a
couple
higher
of
number.
things that happened. So there's a number of variables. So if you look, we had growth in the district of $53.8 million from last year to this year. So basically, what happened is, we had growth in the district, we had equalization rates change. Marlboro and Plattekill have historically been, the equalization rate has been 1. It's been assessed at 100% of market value. This year, Marlboro is at 95%, Plattekill is at 96%. Newburgh's equalization rate dropped from 34% to 32.2%. So if you think about it this way, if your house was $100,000 and you were taxed on $100,000 last year, this year your house is going to be $95,000. So you're going to be taxed on. So to get the same amount of money you got last year as you got this year, you have to tax higher because you have a lower base, right? So those factors combined have led to, the tax rate growth ranges from about 5.5% to 7.3%. But that doesn't translate to a change in the tax bill. The tax bill, and this takes into account the basic star exemption, so a normal homeowner who's not a senior citizen. So you basically have a larger amount of value to be taxed, which results in the overall increase to the individual homeowner being lower.
Good, I got it.
So I think the thing we all need to realize, it's totally different from any, for those of us that have been here for a long time. Marlboro and Plattekill have always been at 100%. This is the first year ever that they aren't. So if you look at the sheet that Pat gave everybody, and you're looking at Marlboro Plattekill for this year, and you see that equalization rate, where you really see the difference is because of that 0.95% equalization rate, the growth in Marlboro is $43 million. So that gets recalculated out, and it changes everything. So nobody got none of us got, for those that live in Marlboro, nobody got a reassessment this year. Every year, we normally get a reassessment with our new rate, because they keep us at 100%. For whatever reason, and I haven't talked to you, I only saw it tonight, really, to understand it. We don't know why the town hasn't done it. It's maybe because Newburgh hasn't done it in ever. That's why they're down at .322. So maybe it's to try and balance the scales a little bit, or maybe it's because they're working on a full assessment, because we know a bunch of us said they have been out measuring, so maybe they just haven't finished. So maybe it'll be next year's rolls, they'll be back at 100, we don't know.
But you are correct, James, in what you said, is that this increase is lower than what we had anticipated, because we use the variables from last year, because that's the only variables we have. And that's why every time we say that, we put that big disclaimer of there's so many variables here, this is our best estimate at this point with the variables valued as what they are. And in this case, this year, we had a lot of variables change in our house, which impacted. A lot of variables change in our house, which impacted. Choose 200,000. Choose 200,000. In Marlboro, it'll cost you $32.78 more a year. It'll cost you $32.78 more a year. Did that make?
They made it over there?
It should have made it down if, it should have made it down if,
There you are, Mike.
Mike's hoarding them, that's why you two don't have them.
I'm like, I know, I said a pile.
That's why we have them, we're good.
Correct.
Plattekill, it's $26, and in Newburgh, it's $83. Plattekill, it's $26.
So Newburgh not only did their equalization, Newburgh not only did their equalization rate change, but Newburgh also had to change the basic star exemption amount. That was reduced, where Plattekill and Marlboro's basic star exemption remained what it was last year. So that's why you see Newburgh's slightly higher. Actually, Newburgh's normally a little bit lower on the tax bill. Actually, the rate's much higher because the equalization rate's so much lower. The rate's much higher because the equalization rate's so much lower. Yep.
Well, and remember, that's a ballpark because it depends on your individual actual dollars, yeah. Depends on your individual.
If you get your bill and it says your taxable assessed value is $200,000, that is going to be the difference.
If it was $200,000 last year.
Correct.
If it was 200,000. So for those of us that, if it was 100% last year and it's not this year, it's going to be different. 100% last year and it's any other questions? John? Any other questions?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
John? Susan?
Do we have?
James?
Yes.
Yes.
Karen? Joanne?
Yes.
Karen? Joanne? And myself, yes. So motion passed 6-0. And old business. Motion passed 6-0. Old business. Joanne, just so we can get the conference. I know you said you were going to look at that. Conference. I know you said you were going to look at that. Okay. Yep. Okay. Is anybody else interested in going to the state conference this year? Is anybody else interested in going to the state conference? It is. Yeah, it's in Rochester.
It's October 20th?
Yeah, it's in Rochester. Anybody have an objection to Joanne going and representing us? Anybody have an objection to Joanne going and representing us? Work with Teresa and she'll get you registered and we'll get it in. Work with Teresa.
I think it also would be a good idea too, if, the board takes a good look at the agenda, so if we have any, specific things that we want Joanne to be bringing back to us, that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, and I've got a couple items to bring up too on that. Yeah, and I've got a couple items to bring up too on that. Well, we'll see if we have one by then. We'll see if we have one by then. We'll see if we have one. Okay, great. Okay, great. Yeah, well, everybody, we'll get that, everybody will get that in the mail, you know, email-wise, all the resolutions. Everybody will get that in the mail. And then Joanne will have our voting, proxy to vote on behalf of the board.
When do they generally come out with the agenda? Is it late
Usually it's
September?
next month.
When do they generally come out with the?
But we have time, because there's items that we have to, they're looking for some direction on some things, so that, because there's things that aren't finalized yet, and they're looking for some support.
And if we all can just really take a look at that agenda, then if there are specific things, we can be intentional about, you know, what we're hoping she'll.
What Joanne can bring back. Yeah, if there's something that the board as a whole really feels is critical to us, then we
But
can.
that she'd have to attend to.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But that she'd have to attend to.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But that she'd have to attend to.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But that she'd have to attend to.
Construction are going on, there'll be a lot of vendors there. So we can start bringing, some information back on them also for the service area. Because not everybody does come to this area, which I found
Right.
the first couple of years.
Okay, good, let's, new business? Okay, good, let's, new business? Okay, let's, new business? Okay.
Upsetting for me. It's come to my attention that open house will be done on September 11th. We have families, we honor, September 11th. And this is kind of hard for me because it's a horrible situation, we're in a moment of silence. We have families in this area that are affected by 9/11. And my thing is, why would we do an open house on 9/11? It has affected so many people. There's memorial services going on that night, there are different things going on. I think we should pick another day for an open house. So that was one of my concerns. September 11th is really, and a lot of people in this community, it's just not appropriate. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to pull up the calendar right now, but we'll take a look at it tomorrow and see if there's another option.
I mean, it is
Part of the
Patriots Day, it
difficulty
is,
right. We'll take a look at it tomorrow.
it is Patriots Day, it is,
Right. Joanne, we'll take a look at it tomorrow.
My other one is,
Joanne, we'll take a look at it tomorrow.
parking lot, high school being, painted, wonder where's the money going to? Also, at the end of the school year, when you finish painting these, who's paying to paint the parking spots black? Where is that money coming from? Because again, it's a taxpayer issue, we have a problem that we have to keep paving the parking lot over and over and over, black topping and breaking on the floor. Again, this should affect our taxpayers. So if we're painting parking spots, the kids, from what I understand, pay $25 for a parking spot. And then they get to paint it. At the end of the school year, who pays for it? To get it.
Yeah, we'll defray some of the costs with some of the contributions, but it's maintenance work that Mr. Cavaza, high school principal, has worked out, so. Cavaza, high school principal, has worked out. We pay. We pay, correct.
we're not, but Joanne, whether they reseal it, we're not paving. Paint doesn't reseal it. We're not paving. Paint doesn't.
That's not true. They have a process worked out within the system that the art department is overseeing. They're gonna work with Mr. Cavaza to paint those spots over to prepare for the next year for those seniors that wanna have their spots painted. So it's really a nice program for ownership of their space during their senior year.
Is it a fundraiser for the class?
They're turning it into a fundraiser
Is
for
it
the
a
art.
fundraiser for
Which
the
turns
class?
into scholarship.
Is it a fundraiser for?
We have about 30 or so students that are participating, Mr. Waller. About 37 students that are participating, Mr. Waller. About 37. Yeah, yeah. This is. Yeah, yeah. This is.
It's just to paint this spot is what you're paying $25 for.
Correct.
Yeah, it's clear on the website.
So I just want to make sure the public is aware of that.
Yeah, it's clear on the website.
Can we start charging for parking? That's a revenue stream. Can we start
Why
charging?
not? Every college does.
No, we're not charging for parking.
Why not? Every college does.
No, we're not charging for parking.
Why not? Every college does.
No, we're not charging for parking.
Anybody else have any new business? Yeah. Anybody else have any new business? Okay, so I just have a couple things. One of the things, I just have a couple things that Susan and I had talked about, it was in one of the publications, was trying to really find a way to take all the financial information we get and actually make it so you don't have to be an accountant to understand it, to see where we're at financially. So Pat, if everybody's in agreement, what I'm going to ask Pat to do is basically take, we're looking at two numbers, revenue and expenses. We're looking at two numbers. Where we are year to date and expenses, not only in dollars, but as a percentage of our budget, not only in dollars, and have on that same one piece of paper, revenue and expenses for the same exact time period with a percentage from the prior year's budget, so we can just see where we are this year compared to last year. And then this way, once a month at the late meeting in the month, so that Pat has an idea to give, has time to get it ready. We would get a one-page report, not something we're adopting or getting, it's for our information and the public's information of where we are. Simple, easy to understand, easy to read. Simple, easy to understand, easy to read. Oh, we're still gonna get those are all legally requirement documents that Pat has to prepare. We're not gonna change any of that, but to really get a 10,000 foot view of where we are at, without having to delve into the 65 pages of the bills and the reports and, something to really see where we're at.
If Pat's okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Something to really see where we're at.
If Pat's okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Will look like, and then provide it to you.
Is everybody is in agreement and there's no objection, because obviously we're only gonna do something if everybody's in agreement. And there's no objection, because obviously we're only gonna do something if everybody's in agreement. And there's no objection. That's coming. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. That's coming. So one of the things we got from coming up for the convention is the fact that there is the BOCES has sent us a thing dealing with the superintendent for the district superintendent for BOCES, the salary cap. So what there's a resolution committee is requested that OU BOCES is approved, an amendment to the resolution that Orange Ulster board submitted to NISBA. The original resolution read to raise the BOCES district salary cap to 98% of the current commissioner of salary without specified increments, allowing the salary to be competitive with regional component salary. According to the Area 9 rep, the reasoning was to linking the districts that the commissioners would have a roller coaster effect as the commissioners changed. So the committee voted 12-0 to recommend an amended resolution and to do away with it now reads, resolved that the School Boards Association support legislation to eliminate the limit of the BOCES district superintendent compensation. So they're looking to do away with the limit, not tie it to the Commissioner of Education, and they're looking for as many supports. They need to receive it by, to make it into the delegate's guide. If there's going to be a support letter, we'd have to have it in. Basically, they needed to submit it by August 16th, but the endorsements can be in up to as late as the 20th of September, but obviously we'd like to discuss it here, and if everybody's in favor, we can then do a support letter or not, or we can just let it stand on its own.
Their superintendent that runs all the superintendents, their pay is actually lower than a lot of our superintendents.
Yeah, well, that's good, they're looking to have that change. Yeah, well, that's good, they're looking to have that change. Yeah, well, that's good, they're looking to have that change.
I think it's a positive thing to do that.
Karen? Karen, thoughts, Susan? Yes, no? Removing, I mean, the cap is, okay, that's fine. The cap is fairly low for the BOCES superintendent. So they, let's be real, they do play some games. In certain areas, they get one salary from one group and one salary from another to try and be, because you can keep people. So they do try and get around it other ways, so. But this would allow my only concern is, because I always get confused, because the BOCES budget is a weird way, we only vote on part of it. Is the district superintendent's salary in the part we vote on? Is the district superintendent's salary? Yes, okay. So then we would still have a say in whatever the salary was gonna be set at. Obviously, we just get our little piece of it, but we would have a say. Obviously, we just get our little piece of it, but we would have a say. Oh, yeah, it's,
But get a say, but then you're voting on the whole thing.
oh, yeah. Right, yeah.
So you're not really having.
Yeah, well, we would have, the only say we would have, and, you know, nobody, we would have, the only say we would have. Is having an actual resident on the board. You know, but fortunately, Larry comes, we can give him our 2 cents here, as he continues to come down meeting. As he does. So, James? I'm okay. As he does. John?
Yes.
Okay. So, we'll get a letter out in support of it so that we can get that done. We all got an email. You have to check those, Joanne. We all got an email from, again, from Orange Ulster BOCES. Again, they are putting together a steering committee, because they're looking at the feasibility to build a regional athletic center with an indoor track at BOCES at Arden Hill location. Facility could be a multifunction used for large events like graduations, Special Olympics, concerts, and special events. So they were looking, initially it had said, if you're interested, they were only going to include two board members on the committee initially, and they wanted everybody to respond because it was going to be a first come, first serve. They had 9 people that responded, representing 6 different districts: Florida, Minnesota, Port Jervis, Warwick, Washingtonville, and ourselves. So they've decided that they're going to have one member from each district. I had responded, so because I didn't want us to not be involved. I figured if multiple people had responded, then we would pick who. So the original message came out from Teresa on August the 6th. But so we will have a representative on that committee as that moves forward. I can imagine that's going to be a very expensive ordeal, so we'll have to see where it goes. And then just 2 more things. A lot of emails this summer. I'd like the approval of the board to attend the Board Officers Academy in White Plains. It's a 1-day board officers class on October the 4th from 8 to 3:30. Is a $300 fee for being members of NISBA. So, does anybody have an objection to me attending? Yeah, it's effective leadership for successful governance. It's for board officers, the roles, responsibilities, how to plan and run, evaluate effective school board meetings, what it takes to govern, for a governance team to be successful, implications of mental health crisis on your district and what you can do. your district and what you can do. And then lastly, the Ulster School Boards Association. And then lastly, to kick off, our first meeting is not till October, but they're looking to have each district do a little presentation talking about our goals from the previous year and successes and stuff. So we're going to take some of the stuff that we've had that's gone on this year, and I'll work with Mike to put together, you know, a couple PowerPoint slides that we've got to get to them. They don't need it until the 23rd of September. But so if anybody, although we have a designated representative, they're willing to let anybody that wants to come to those meetings. Monteora, I swear they pack a bus and they come down. They're very well represented, but unfortunately it's not on our board night. It's a Thursday night, but they're really good about moving. It's October the 10th at 6 p.m. And you get dinner if you want to go. So, but just so everybody's aware. Any other items? Any other items? Recognition of district residents or others? Recognition of district residents or others? Recognition of district residents or others?
Kathy Sariello from Marlboro. Quick. For the desks, I know it was kind of an off-the-cuff comment about selling them. I know it was kind of an off-the-cuff. Will the school district have a liability for selling desks to the public, especially since we're getting rid of them, they're not in good shape? I mean, is there a liability, a waiver you're going to do, something like that? I mean, a waiver that would open the district to liability.
I mean, we list items, surplus items for sale on Auctions International.
Okay, yeah.
The website that sells those things. The next recourse, if they weren't suitable for sale, would be to look to try and get scrap value for them.
Okay.
Metal on them. The last resource, and you know, I'd have to check with the last.
Yeah, yeah. That was my only thing.
That would be the least
yeah,
desirable.
yeah, absolutely. Understood. Understood. And the second thing is regarding the opting out thing. I sign so many papers and don't sign other papers, and I'm trying to remember what this form looks like, but wouldn't it be prudent just to have all the same verbiage, but just say, don't send it back if you're not interested? Then you're having them read it, because obviously, well, hopefully, people are reading what they're signing or not signing. You're assuming that they're reading it if they're going to opt out or opt in. Have the same verbiage, and that way they don't send it back, because I can't even imagine trying to monitor that many people in the opt-in. I mean, it's impossible, and there's library computers. There's computers everywhere in the classrooms, not just the Chromebooks, not just your phones, but they do have access to technology in other classes. I know in the tech class, they're all computers. So keep the same verbiage, but go with the opt-out. Don't, so you're not getting the paperwork back, but you're still getting the information. So you're not getting the paperwork back, but you're still getting the information.
Any other district residents? Okay, I'm going to propose executive session. Proposed pending or current litigation, collective bargaining negotiations. Can I have a motion? Joanne, second. Bargaining negotiations. James, all in favor? Aye. There may or may not be action after the meeting, depending on how the discussion goes. Either way, Teresa will let you know.